Hello and welcome. Let's begin the news with WFP holds Gaza staff movements after Israeli attack. Dozens hurt. Power cut as Typhoon Shann hits Japan. Las Vegas politician gets life sentence for journalist murder. Telegram founder Durov investigated. Bill set at 5.56 million US dollars in Harris's CNN interview. A key moment in wild race. Unusual Gaza War, the World Food Programme WFP has declared a halt in the movement of its employees in the Gaza Strip until further notice after one of its vehicles was hit by gunfire just meters from an Israeli-controlled checkpoint. The incident happened on Tuesday night as the vehicle was approaching the Wadi Gaza Brigade checkpoint. The WFP said in a statement none of the employees on board were physically harmed. Stefan Dujarric, United Nations spokesperson, blamed Israel for the attack, saying, according to report, that a clearly marked humanitarian vehicle was struck 10 times by Israeli gunfire, including with bullets targeting from windows. 5 of the bullets were on the driver's side and some on the windscreen. The team was returning from a mission to Karem Abu Salem, known as Karem Shalom to Israelis, with 2 WFP armored vehicles after escorting a convoy of trucks carrying humanitarian cargo on the way to Gaza's central area. Dujarric said the convoy's movement had been coordinated with the Israeli military and it had clearance to approach. WFP Executive Director Cindy McCain described the attack as unacceptable and said it was the latest in a series of unnecessary incidents that have endangered the lives of her team members in Gaza. The WFP called on Israeli authorities and all parties to the conflict to ensure the safety and security of all aid workers in Gaza. It added that while it's not the first security incident the WFP team has encountered during the war, it is the first time that one of its vehicles has been directly shot at near a checkpoint, despite securing the necessary clearances as per standard protocol. Talking climate crisis, loads of people have been wounded and power was cut to 250,000 households after Typhoon Shann hit southwestern Japan. The Japan Meteorological Agency said the typhoon, bringing gusts of up to 252 kilometers (157 miles) per hour and torrential rain, made landfall near Satsumansa Dai City on Kyushu Island at about 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. The same warning was in place in the city of Usa, also in Oita Prefecture, because of possible flooding from the Yakan River. Level 5 alerts are seldom issued and indicate a life-threatening situation. Power supply was cut to over 250,000 households across 7 prefectures in the island, the Kyushu Electric Power Company said. The weather agency expects Shann to move through Japan's central and eastern regions, including the capital Tokyo, in the coming days. Officials have issued evacuation orders for millions of people. Torrential rain brought by Shann has drenched huge parts of Japan since on Tuesday. Late on Tuesday, according to a report, 3 members of a family were killed when a landslide buried their house in Gamagori, a city in central Aichi Prefecture. Car maker Toyota has halted production at its 14 factories across Japan as a result of the typhoon, while Nissan and Honda have stopped operations at their Kyushu plants. Japan Airlines and NAN have together cancelled hundreds of domestic flights that were scheduled for Thursday and Friday. Some rail services have also been affected. Shann is the 3rd major storm system to hit Japan this month. According to a study released last month, typhoons in the region have been forming closer to coastlines, increasing more rapidly and lasting longer over land due to climate change. So judicial matters now. A Las Vegas politician has been imprisoned for life for killing an investigative journalist who wrote critical articles detailing wrongdoing in the department he headed. Robert tells an ex-Democratic public administrator lay in wait outside the suburban home of 69-year-old reporter Jeff German and then stabbed him to death on September 2nd, 2022. Tells 47 bowed his head as the clerk read the verdict of first-degree murder, which carried a possible life sentence without parole. He was later sentenced to life with a minimum term of 20 years. Glenn Cook, executive editor of German's newspaper, the Las Vegas Review-Journal, said in a statement, Jeff was killed for doing the kind of work in which he took great pride. His reporting had held an elected official accountable for bad behavior and empowered voters to choose someone else's for the job. In many countries, the killers of journalists go unpunished. Cook added, not so in Las Vegas. The 2-week trial heard how the veteran Las Vegas Review Journal reporter had spent months probing allegations that Tales oversaw an abusive workplace and had an inappropriate relationship with a member of staff. The article was published in June 2022, a month before an election in which Tales was running for another term in office. He denied the allegations but lost his re-election bid in the primaries. The jury of 7 women and 5 men heard how an infuriated Tales had driven to German's home, where he hid in some bushes before launching a frenzied and fatal knife attack. Tales' DNA was found underneath German's fingernails, and video of the attacker's car matched a vehicle registered to Tales' wife. He denied carrying out the murder, arguing that the police had ignored evidence that other people could have been responsible and that he had been framed. Las Vegas defense lawyer Robert Langford, who was not involved in the case, said the DNA evidence on the German's fingernails was an unsurmountable bit of evidence. 15 media workers have been killed in the United States in connection with their work since 1992, the Committee to Protect Journalists (CPJ) says. German was the only journalist murdered in the U.S. in 2022 among 69 media workers and journalists killed worldwide, according to the press group's data. Catherine Jacobson, U.S., Canada and Caribbean coordinator for the CPJ, said the conviction sends an important message that the killing of journalists will not be tolerated. Meanwhile, Telegram founder Pavel Durov is under official investigation and will not be permitted to leave France, a French prosecutor said in a statement released on Wednesday night. The Russian-born billionaire is being probed for many suspected offences linked to criminal activity on the platform, including complicity in illegal gang transactions, laundering of crimes in an organized gang, and refusal to communicate information to authorities, according to the French prosecutor's statement. He must remain in the country under judicial supervision with a bill set at $5.56 million, that's 5 million euros, and it's obligated to report to the French police station twice a week. On Wednesday, Durov was released from police custody in France and transferred to court for questioning, prosecutors said, according to report, days after his dramatic arrest at a Paris airport. The formal investigation announced on Wednesday evening does not suggest guilt in the French legal system, but shows that prosecutors believe there is enough of a case to merit a serious official investigation. He has not yet been formally charged. Wednesday's prosecutor's office statement added that French National Office for Minors has reported to the prosecutor's office the near absence of response from Telegram to court requests concerning offences that include trafficking, online hate speech, and pedophilia crimes. The suspected acts being probed include complicity in the administration of a platform enabling an illegal transaction in an organized gang, an offense that can carry a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. On Saturday, Durov, 39, was detained at Paris's Bourget airport on a warrant linked to Telegram's lack of moderation. He was being investigated on charges relating to a host of crimes, including allegations that his platform was complicit in aiding fraudsters, drug traffickers, and people spreading child pornography. Telegram and its lack of content moderation has also come under scrutiny for its use by terrorist groups and far-right extremists. He was placed in custody for up to 96 hours, the maximum amount of time someone can be held under French law before being charged. Durov's arrest began a rule over freedom of speech and triggered particular concerns in both Ukraine and Russia, where it is extremely popular and has become a major communication tool among military personnel and citizens during Moscow's war on its neighbor. On Wednesday, Russia criticized Paris for its detention of Durov. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said, "It seems to me that all this has once again demonstrated the true attitude of the French leadership, which has blatantly trampled on international norms in the field of protecting freedom of speech and expression for only one reason, because if they protect certain standards, they must not only comply with them, they must protect and implement them." The Kremlin has sought to calm fears in Russia about the future of the app, with the Russian government spokesperson Dmitry Peskov attempting to dispel calls for users to delete their sensitive messages on the app. U.S. 2024 election, Kamala Harris, Vice President, faces the next test in her presidential bid on Thursday with her first unscripted interview with a major media outlet since becoming the Democratic nominee. Harris will be hoping to extend the momentum she's conjured at the beginning of her campaign and to avoid the types of unforced errors that plagued her first presidential bid in 2019, as well as her early days as Vice President. It's also a chance for the freshly anointed candidate to heighten a contrast with Republican nominee Donald Trump, to link with undecided voters, to highlight her credentials to lead in the Oval Office at a tense time for the United States at home and abroad. Harris will appear alongside her vice presidential pick, Tim Walz, in a CNN primetime special airing at 9 p.m. from Georgia, where she is on a bus tour designed to put a swing state the GOP thought it was close to securing in November back on the board. The interview is the most significant chapter of the campaign between last week's Democratic Convention in Chicago and the presidential debate set for Philadelphia on September 10th. The interview with Dana Bash has taken on elevated importance because of the compressed race Harris is running after she became her party's candidate, and because of the way it mushroomed into an issue between the feuding campaigns. It's the newest highly anticipated moment in a wild race that has seen Trump become the first major party nominee to be convicted of a crime and the ex-president survive an assassination attempt. President Joe Biden's disastrous performance in the CNN debate in Atlanta, meanwhile, set off a crisis that ended his re-election bid. Major television interviews like Thursday's have also played an outsized role. The president agreed to several in an attempt to arrest his slide, but only exacerbated concerns about his age and capacity to serve out a full second term. But not planning a major interview before now, Harris opened herself to complaints by Trump and some non-partisan observers that she is trying to dodge scrutiny. These raise the stakes for any potential gaffes will be seized upon by the Trump campaign. A strong performance by the vice president, however, will be another challenge for Trump, who has struggled since Harris's Trump transformed the race by closing his leads in battlegrounds and raising $500 million. On more stories, and now in Africa, Spain to unveil new strategy for Africa relations. On Wednesday, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Spain will launch a fresh strategy for its ties with Africa in the coming weeks, with West Africa and the Sahel being considered priority regions. He did not provide further details. After first visiting Gambia, Sanchez is now in Senegal as part of a 3-day tour of West Africa to address irregular migration. It is the first time a Spanish Prime Minister has visited the small country of 2.7 inhabitants. On Tuesday, the Spanish Prime Minister started his tour in Mauritania, where he declared that Spain will expand its circular migration program to Mauritanians and renew cooperation between the two nations' security forces to fight people smuggling and trafficking networks. He continued his tour, going south to Gambia on Wednesday, and is anticipated to meet with Senegal's president and prime minister on Thursday. The three coastal nations have become the major departure points of migrants trying to reach the Canary Islands, a Spanish archipelago located close to the African coast and used as a stepping stone for migrants and refugees trying to reach continental Europe. According to Spain's Interior Ministry, over 22,000 people have landed on its shores since January, more than double the number of irregular arrivals for the same period last year. Sanchez said during a conference in Senegal that he was a strong advocate for migration, but also emphasized that security is a top priority. Among those making it to the Canaries are thousands of Malian refugees fleeing violence and instability in the Sahelian nation, as well as youth from Senegal, Mauritania, and other West African countries who are seeking better job opportunities abroad. There are also progressively more teenagers and children traveling alone to the Canary Islands, which has overwhelmed the local government responsible for their care. We take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll bring you more stories. Don't go anywhere. You're welcome back. Now it's Zuma Nigeria, and we begin with NCC set September 14 as final NIM linkage deadline. On Wednesday, the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) said that over 153 million subscriber identification model SIMs have been successfully linked to a national identity number (NIN), showing a compliance rate of 96%, a substantial addition from 69.7% in January 2024. This is even as the NCC has directed all mobile network operators (MNOs) to finish the mandatory verification and linkage of SIMs to NINs by September 14th, 2024. Effective September 15th, 2024, the Commission believes that no SIM operating in Nigeria will be without a valid NIN. Ruben Molka, the Commission's Director Public Affairs, in a statement said NCC is approaching the final phase of the SIM NIN linkage process, even as it seeks the continued cooperation of all Nigerians to achieve 100% compliance. Through collaboration with the Office of the National Security Advisor on ONSA and the National Identity Management Commission (NIMC), the NCC said it has exposed alarming cases where individuals possess an unusually high number of SIM cards, some exceeding 100,000. The Commission restated its commitment to working with security agencies and other stakeholders to crack down on the sale of pre-registered SIMs, thereby safeguarding national security and ensuring the integrity of mobile numbers in Nigeria. It therefore urged all Nigerians who have not yet completed their NIN SIM linkage or who have faced issues due to verification mismatches to visit their service providers quickly to update the details before the deadline. Alternatively, the approved self-service portals are available for this purpose. The NCC also reminds the public that the sale and purchase of pre-registered SIMs are criminal offences punishable by imprisonment and fines. We encourage citizens to report any such activities to the Commission via our toll-free line 622 or through our social media platforms, it added. Still on the news, federal government ASUU meeting set for September 6th for more talks. The deliberation between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASUU yesterday ended with both parties declaring it a fruitful session. The federal government and the representative of ASUU, while speaking after the meeting, said they will reconvene on Friday, September 6th to examine progress made so far in the conclusions achieved. Professor Tahir Mamman, the Minister of Education, said the meeting resolved that ASUU leadership will take decisions reached by members and return with feedback on the next adjourned date. Meanwhile, ASUU President Professor Emmanuel Osadeke said, and I quote, "Actually, we have met to discuss all the issues and what the government have done between the last time we met and today. We have appraised them and agreed that let's also give the government between now and our next meeting to see what they will have done on these issues." On climate crisis, federal government plans camps evacuations as flood hit 28 states. The heavy rains and flooding that have wreaked havoc across the country in recent times have spread to 28 states, claiming 175 lives and displacing 207,902 others, according to the National Emergency Management Agency (NEMA). Authorities have been urging residents in flood-prone areas to relocate as the rains persist, following the Nigerian Meteorological Agency's warnings about the heavy rainfalls, urging preparedness for potential floods. According to reports, state governments, in partnership with NEMA, had begun steps to evacuate residents in flood-prone areas to avert further disaster. The Director General of NEMA, Zubaida Umar, further disclosed that the agency had activated the National Emergency Operations Center following the recent flooding. Umar, who stated this on Wednesday when the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, visited the agency following the recent retreat for chief executives of agencies under the presidency, noted that the activation of the center was to streamline disaster response efforts and act as a command center for resource management and communication. She said the 2024 flooding has affected 28 states across 133 local government areas. The flood has displaced 207,902 persons, affected 526,703 persons, affected 79,138 houses, 1,971 injuries sustained, 106,178 hectares of farmlands affected and 175 lives have been lost, adding that the agency had carried out disaster assessments in almost all the states, including Ogun, Rivers, Imo, Lagos, Ekiti, Edo, and Kwara for various incidents. These most recent for flood assessments are in Zamfara, Katsina, Jigawa, Adamawa, Sokoto, Bauchi, Taraba, Kebbi, Kano, Benue, and Kogi. She added. She highlighted that the agency had coordinated response to 158 emergencies, aided 118,337 individuals, rescued 4,706, and reported 1,414 fatalities. Bajabiamila, in his response, urged the agency to not just focus on disaster mitigation, but should prevent disasters. The Chief of Staff to the President for the stated the flooding, as has been observed, is a perennial problem in Nigeria. And finally on the news, Labour to storm force headquarters on Thursday in terrorism financing row. The Nigeria Labour Congress NLC, in solidarity with its president, has mobilized its members, particularly the Central Working Committee CWC, to storm the police headquarters in Abuja as Comrade Joe Ajaro honors the summons by the police over his alleged connection to terrorism financing, among other allegations. Remember that on Monday, August 19th, police had summoned the NLC president to appear at the force headquarters on Tuesday, August 20th by 10 a.m. to answer questions on his alleged involvement in terrorism financing, cybercrime subversion, criminal conspiracy, and treasonable felony. The summons compelled an emergency National Executive Council NEC meeting where the Congress condemned the action, describing the allegations as trumped-up charges and politically motivated to silence the workforce. A circular to all NLC affiliates and state councils signed by the General Secretary, Comrade Emmanuel Uboja, and on mobilization for peaceful procession and prayer session in solidarity with the Congress President, Comrade Ajaro, said together they shall overcome the challenges and continue to uphold justice, fairness, and democracy in the country. It will be recalled that after the police summons for the NLC president to appear at the force headquarters in Abuja on Tuesday, August 20th, 2024, the Congress held an emergency NEC meeting where it resolved to demand for an extension of time from the police in order to consult its lawyers on the subject matter. A formal letter subsequently from the chambers of Femi Falana's son was sent to the police, where the NLC president said he will appear for the police interrogation on August 29th, and he also demanded full details of the allegations against him. Another look at the top stories. WFP holds Gaza staff movement after Israeli attack. Dozens hurt, power out as Typhoon Shann hits Japan. Las Vegas politician gets life sentence for journalist murder. Telegram founder Durov investigated, bail set at $5.56 million, and Harris's CNN interview, a key moment in wild race. And that's all on the news. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.